Entrepreneurs aren't born, they're brewed. You are now listening to the Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney. Let's grow!
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Adam McChesney, and I want to thank you for being here today. Thank you to Half Coast Studios for all that they do in getting the podcast produced and distributed, along with sponsoring the show. If you're looking to start your podcast or take your current one to the next level, then you need to come check out what they have going on. Contact them today for a free consultation. If you're listening, please be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. We would love for you to share this on social media by tagging me and our guests. In this way, we can get this content out to more people. Today, we have another great episode lined up for you. He and I got connected on Facebook earlier this year, and it's been a massive blessing for me. He has supported me and my mission while serving others and finding ways to give back always before asking for anything in return. I had the opportunity to be on his podcast last month, and it was an absolute blast. You are going to learn a ton from him and his story. I honestly can't wait. He is a first responder advocate, #1 best-selling author, Christian master connector, and promoter of others. My guest today is Richard Kaufman. He is the host of the Vertical Momentum Resiliency Podcast and also known as the Comeback Coach. He also has a coffee company called Vertical Momentum. Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited and blessed. Thank you so much. Like I said, I'm very honored and humbled to be here today.
I love it. I love it. It's going to be a great episode. I have been obviously following you, connected with you for a while. I was on your podcast. I absolutely love your energy. I love everything that you are about. So I know our audience is going to love this episode as well. So we like to get started comparing our entrepreneurs and our guests in their journey to that of the beer brewing process. So we get started with the history. So Richard, if you can tell people a little bit about who you are, what you do, where you came from, all that good stuff, that would be amazing.
Well, actually, first I want to apologize. As you can see, my background isn't what it usually is. I'm a low-tech redneck, so I'm still learning how to do all this. So I do apologize.
You're good.
I'm actually an accidental entrepreneur, never meant to be in the space. I was with GNC for over 30 years. I was supposed to become a partner, but because once Amazon hit, that kind of just shit the bed. But for me, a little quick down and dirty, I'm a recovering addict, alcoholic, joined the military, got thrown out of the military for being an addict, got back in. I was going to be thrown out again in the end of September 2001, but because of 9/11, it changed my whole life. But then I got hurt. I got back in the military. I got hurt on duty, lost my vision, almost all my vision. I had enough still to read, so I started, as they were processing me out, I still started to read. I started to read a lot, and I picked up a book by Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lecter, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which they've been on my show. And I started getting into personal development, and I heard about this guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, and he actually lives 20 minutes from my house. So I actually snuck a business lunch with him. And he's the one that got started me out on my entrepreneurial journey with the podcast, the book, the coffee, everything like that. So like I said, I'm an accidental entrepreneur, and I'm still learning the game, and I'm enjoying every minute of being an entrepreneur.
Love that. And I love what you talk about on that self-development journey, because I think so many people, especially entrepreneurs that have been around for a while, they wait a long time before investing in themselves and becoming the best version of who they can be. And it's so essential to get to that point, because business is tough. And if you're not ready for everything that's going to come at you, and you're not leveling up as a person, you're going to struggle to handle everything that you have to do on a daily basis. And it's never fun to be in a reactive mode versus being proactive.
And I totally agree. I'm only a ninth grade education, have a ninth grade education, but I've read over 6,000 books. I have 15 books going as we speak. I just got another one in today. So by my friend, Mr. Dean Graziosi. So we're working on something, putting something together for the both of us. But I think that either you're learning or you're eventually going to die, because the way of social media is changing day by day, minute by minute. And if you're not learning, then you're going to get passed by.
Yeah.
And for a low-tech redneck like me, it takes a lot more than the average person. So, but you got to stay up on everything, especially with TikTok, and I'm sure we'll get in it, TikTok, social media, this new chat GPT, all this stuff is coming down the pike. And if you don't know what we're talking about, you're already missing the boat.
Yes, absolutely. You definitely are. I appreciate you highlighting that, because I think that that's one thing that people are always maybe not as quick to adapt as they should. And obviously there's so many different things you could focus your time and energy on, but when you are late to the party, you're late to the party, and it's tough to get back. So I definitely agree with you there. The next thing that we like to get into is talking about key ingredients that make obviously a great beer, but we also like to pivot that and talk about 3 key things that have made you successful in your journey thus far. What would those 3 things be?
The never quit attitude. I have a new book I'm working on called Too Dumb to Quit, and that'll be my next book. Also mentorship, and also building real relationships, and building, because I'm a relationship guy, and I told you when we met, I believe in building generational relationships. Mm-hmm. So for me, business and relationships go hand in hand. Don't be that guy that just on LinkedIn, hey bro, it doesn't work. Try to add value. And for me, I like my friend Gary said, if you promote your friends 10 times more than you promote yourself, you never have to promote yourself.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I believe in. I believe in, for me, I think even building relationships is the most important things on and offline. And I think a lot of people forget about that. But that's how business is done now, is with building relationships.
Mm-hmm. And I think that that's something that, especially since COVID, when everything went remote, even if you were in the same town as people have struggled to build real relationships, and they've used social media and just the internet as an excuse. Well, I can do everything remote. But you can still build those types of relationship that you and I built, the relationships that you and I build with other people that are meaningful, that are real, that are more valuable to our relationships and those people than what we used to even do when we were meeting in person. I think people go back to thinking, oh, well, if I meet somebody in person, it's going to be that much better. There is a sense, obviously, when you meet someone in person for the first time and you build that relationship, of course. But there was a lot of stuff that people were doing that was just robotic. They were showing up to meetings. They were meeting people just to say, hey, I'm building relationships. And they weren't actually doing anything with those relationships. So I think in a remote environment, you just have the ability to build more relationships and have the opportunity to meet with more people, because you're not having to leave your house in order to do so. So it's so important.
Yep. And plus, a lot of people, for me, they don't, if you're a big Facebook person, if you're not using the whole Facebook birthday thing, mm-hmm. you're missing out on a lot.
Yep.
It's going to kick you up in the algorithm, but a lot of people don't even use that feature. A lot of people, won't comment on things. Like if I see you, you have a picture of your baby, and if you got a beautiful baby, I'm going to say, hey brother, beautiful baby, I'm so proud of you. That goes such a long way in building relationships, and you're not asking for anything. Mm-hmm. You're just trying to build that relationship. And eventually, if your face in your picture gets seen long enough, you become part of the family.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to do, especially in business, because people buy from people they like. And, that's where the way I do, I'll go drive two hours away just to go shop at a person's store, mm-hmm. if I built that relationship, even on the internet.
Yeah, no, that know, like, and trust factor is super important. So love that. So we're going to talk about, obviously, overnight success, and within beer brewing process, overnight success is not real, nor is it real in entrepreneurship. So talk to me about some of the ups and downs of your journey and some things that you have accomplished and some lessons that you've learned along the way.
Well, I tell everybody it's took me 10 years to be an overnight success. And yep. I don't think I'm even successful yet. Mm-hmm. But for me, you know, and for me in the podcasting game, I think I have something like 560 episodes, but I'm still learning. I'm still trying to get better. And like I said, since I'm a low-tech redneck, I never realized that my first show, which I had almost 300 episodes on, was never on iTunes. So I had to go back and shut down that podcast and then restart this one that I have. And it's come to realize that, you know, you don't know what you don't know. So hire somebody that does know. And it would have cut 5 years off of my plan if I would have just hired somebody that would have said, listen, dumbass, you're not even on iTunes. You know what I mean? So that's something that I've learned. And I also learned that, you know, I may not be good at graphics. I may not be good at, you know, posting, but I'm great at building relationships. I'm great at building friendships. I'm great at interviewing people. So, you know, I triple down on what I'm great at. And now I don't even worry about what I'm not good at because I know somebody that is better. So I'll hire them and let them do the work.
Yeah. You're building up your network to also build up your capacity and build up your identity in your team to be able to facilitate on things that you don't want to be doing, you don't like doing, you're not good at doing, which makes you a much more lethal entrepreneur. And I think that's huge. So if you're talking to an entrepreneur that, let's just say they're new to the game and they're starting their first business, or maybe they've had businesses and they're starting a brand new business, or they've been doing it for a couple of years and they're struggling. What is one lesson that you would share with them that you're like, hey, if you follow this lesson, if you learn from my mistakes, this is going to cut years off of your path to success or to get to that next level in business? What would that one lesson be?
Let me just do that. I always I'm a big reading guy, and I always love the Bible because they always talk about parables. But one of my friends, I was with GNC for almost 30 years. He has a GNC, and I asked him one day, I'm like, well, what are your analytics? Who is your perfect avatar? And he said, oh, it was a 24-year-old bodybuilding guy. So we actually went into his analytics and find out his perfect avatar spends the most money was a 34-year-old female. So he was actually spending all his marketing dollars going to the wrong place. So something my friend John Lee Dumas, he's one of my mentors, he said, you know, in order to be successful in business, you have to find out who your perfect avatar is. And, you know, you have to go an inch wide, but go a mile deep. Because if you don't know who you're advertising to, you're just wasting advertising dollars. And like Jim Rohn once said, if you're advertising to everybody, you're advertising to nobody. So for me, I think if you're having a business and it's not being successful, maybe you're marketing to the wrong person.
Yeah. No, people being in marketing myself, so many people don't know who their ideal client avatar is. And if they think that they know, it's normally not the person that it actually is. Like you said, they're like, oh, this is who I'm going after. And you're like, all right, well, let's dig into data. Data tells the whole story. You know, men lie. I tell people this all the time. Men lie, women lie. Data tells the truth. And data is what we need to be leveraging in order to create more effective marketing plans, to just be more effective and more opportunistic when it comes to things in business and in our personal lives. So I love what you shared there. When you're talking about like understanding an ideal client avatar from your angle, what are some key things that you're looking at? Like, what are questions that you're asking people if you're talking to someone about their ideal client avatar? I think that would be really awesome if you could share that with us as well.
Well, you know, like my friend, when I was talking to my friend Russell Brunson, we talked about how my perfect avatar is who I was 5 years ago and who I'm going to be 5 years from now. That's my perfect avatar. So when a person come on my show, I know that the guy I'm talking to, I named him Craig, because this way I actually have a face with a picture. I know that he's between 25 and 45 years old, father of three, veteran or entrepreneur. So whenever any kind of marketing I do, it goes to Craig. You know, what would Craig do? So that's just the way, you know, that John Lee Dumas and Russell taught me that, you know, once you have that down, then your marketing is always going to hit the spot, because you're not going this way, you're not going that way. Because I was in the military for 20 years, 23, and I was taught that it's better to be a sniper than a pray and spray guy. Mm-hmm. So now I think, if we're going to be businesses, especially if you're a business owner, small business owner, new business owner, every dollar counts. So make sure, every dollar is going to where it needs to go, where it's going to hit your market, hit your target. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I completely resonate with that. And there's a lot of validity and a lot of power behind doing so. So thank you very much for sharing that. So talk to us kind of about what the future holds, about some of the projects you're working on with your businesses and things like that. Would love to kind of dive into that as we kind of wrap up our entrepreneur process. Talk to us about what you're working on, some exciting things that are coming down the pipeline.
Well, me and Gary, we set up a 3-year plan, and it just came to the 3-year plan came to end January 1st. So we're 11 days in. My whole plan was the first 3 years was to build social proof. Because nobody's going to want to invest in a podcast, unless I had showed proof that I can have people like yourself, David Meltzer. I'm having UFC Hall of Famer Ken Shamrock coming on. The drummer for Def Leppard's coming on next week. Nobody's going to invest in my company if I didn't have social proof.
Yep.
So that was for the first 3 years, we're just building social proof. I think we have something like 600,000 downloads and 2 million impressions this year, or last year. But also everything that I've done, whether it's been the T-shirts, whether it's been the brand new coffee that I made, 100% of the proceeds go to help veterans struggling with homelessness. So the first 3 years, I haven't made a penny off anything I've done. Everything I've gone back is to help other people. And that includes the sales of my book, the T-shirts, the hats, the coffee. Everything goes to help Project Die Hard, to help others. Because I figure the more people I help, karma is coming back.
Yeah.
And karma is finally starting to pay off in year 3. So we're just starting we just ended year 3, so we're actually starting year 4. So it's going to be fun. I'm able to have a couple speaking events. I'm going to be speaking at one of Richard Branson's event coming up soon. So it's all about paying it forward and talking to people about resilience in business and in life. Because a lot of people don't realize, since COVID, according to my friend, I had one of the Iron Chefs was on the show last year, Simon Majumdar, and he said, we've lost over 100,000 restaurants in the United States alone since COVID. So my show is talking about building resilience in life and in business. Because if you're not going to be resilient in business, and if you're not learning how to pivot, you're going to be out of business. Kind of like Radio Shack is gone, Sears is gone. So if you don't pivot, learn how to pivot and be resilient, you're going to be out of business. So that's my goal for 2023 is to help as many business owners as I can.
Love it. I think it's so key, especially just with the last couple of years and then where we're at with the economy and the market and all these different things. There's never been a more prominent time to have that resilient mindset, to have that resilient atmosphere in our personal lives and in business. So I'm really excited to continue to be a part of your network. I thank you for all the support, everything that you do. I'm a huge fan, so you have a big supporter in me, and really just appreciate you taking some time to come on the podcast today. Where can people find out about you and everything you're doing on social media, websites, all that good stuff?
Well, if they just go to Vertical Momentum, if they just go into their search bar and write Vertical Momentum Podcast, I think we're on the first 4 pages of Google.
Perfect.
So, you can just go there. I'm easily to get in touch with. You can message me on any of the platforms and I'll get back to you usually within an hour. And anything I can do to help support your listeners, I'm going to do. I'm just for your audience, I'm actually going to give away an hour coaching calls.
Wow. Thank you so much.
If they're struggling with, even if it's just struggling with addiction, health issues, because I was with GNC for 30 years. If they're struggling in business, if I don't have the answers, I can get somebody that can get the answers for them. So, for all your listeners, an hour free, just chat, bullshit, and see how I can help them.
Wow. Thank you so much. For listeners, I'm telling you, you need to connect with him. You need to connect with Richard. We'll have all of that stuff in the show notes. That way you can follow up with him. I really appreciate you taking that offer and just for being here today, man. Like I said, it's always great chatting with you. Love your energy. I love everything you're about. So thank you so much for coming on the episode today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And guys, thank you so much. Make sure that you're subscribing to his show. Make sure you leave a written review for him on iTunes, because it's actually worth five-star reviews. So make sure you do that for this gentleman.
Thank you so much. And thank you again to the audience for tuning in to today's podcast. As Richard just mentioned, please be sure to leave a 5-star review, to subscribe, download, and share our content on social media. And thank you again to Half Coast Studios. If you're here in St. Louis and looking to start your own podcast, come check out what they have going on. We'll see y'all next week. And remember, entrepreneurs aren't born, they are brewed.
I'm an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs aren't born, they're brewed. Thank you for listening to Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney.